Okay, so the recording has started. So guys, this class that I'm having tonight, this class is mostly for people who are going to write tomorrow. They're going to write their bookkeeping tomorrow at Lead, UNISA, or wherever you are, you're going there to write or online. But what I'm teaching you here today can be used in the main exam, the board exams. What I'm teaching you here can be used in assignments. What I'm teaching you here can be used anywhere where you have to apply bookkeeping principles. So don't be afraid to use it wherever you are. Okay. So like I mentioned before, we are using the 9th of July 2022 question paper. It has 4 questions. The question there are 4. There's question 1, question 2, question 3, and question 4. Before I start answering for you this question paper here, before we start getting into it, I just want to ask from the audience, what do you think is the main theory that is covered in question 1? Anyone? What do you think is covered in question 1? Those transactions that are in question 1, if you're doing if you did your whole, you did this paper, you will know. What is the main cover of question 1? Just answer. The quicker you answer, the quicker we can get done here.
Conveyancing.
That is conveyancing with a mixture of basic principles. There's like a lot of basics there. That's why the first time I was doing this question paper, I skipped it because I didn't see that it was conveyancing. And then we have question 2. What is question 2?
Correspondence.
Which one?
Instructing.
Instructing. Correspondent. You are correct there. Thank you. That is correct. Number 3. That is what we call, yes, thank you, extractions. Another very important question that you're going to understand after this class, extractions. And then question 4 is just theories, obviously, which I don't think we're going to do because you can just look at that answer in your question paper. So question 1 is going to be conveyancing. We are going to be dealing with the conveyancing. Now, guys, the beautiful thing about conveyancing is under conveyancing, you apply all the basic principles. The only thing that you don't apply under conveyancing, it's 1, you do not apply the principles of a business journal. So you won't use a business journal in conveyancing in most cases, but in some cases you might, but that's like the only principle that's ignored. But the rest of the principle you have to account for. Okay, let's start answering that question. We will answer it one by one. You commence practice for your own account on the 1st of April 2022 and conclude the under-mentioned transactions on the dates mentioned. So on the 1st of April, you as the proprietor deposit 100,000 into your business account to commence practice. So guys, there are 2 types of transactions whenever you are reading a question. Before you decide on a transaction, there's already 2 options that you have to choose from. Is this a business transaction or is this a client transaction? That is always the question that you should ask yourself first. Am I dealing with the client or am I dealing with my own business? In the case of the question that I just read now on the 1st of April, that is a business. That is a business transaction. You are doing that for your business. You are not doing it for your client. So if you are doing it for your business, we are going to have the first book as the business cash book because the transaction is related to your business. Now, next question you ask yourself, is this a deposit or a payment? When we read that question, it says that it's a deposit. All deposits must be debited. Deposit capital, 100,000. Now, your answer doesn't stop there for number 1. You must also do what I like to call the double entry. Okay, sorry about that. Let me just copy this book. You need to do another transaction for the first transaction called the double entry. You need to enter 2 times. Let me just copy the book so that I don't have to draft again. Now, what is the name of the second book? We are going to call it Capital Ledger, or you can just call it a capital general ledger, because ledgers that are related to the business, they are called general ledgers. So it's either you just call it capital ledger or capital general ledger. Either way, it's acceptable. Now, you're going to enter this transaction on the opposite side, which is the credit side. If it's on the debit side on the first book, on the second book, you write it on the credit side. Do you notice how I used the same description? And my description, it's clear and precise so that you can be able to track your transactions. Your deposit of the capital, you can see it on the first book. Your deposit of the capital, you can also see it on the second book. Any questions before we continue to the next transaction?
No questions.
No questions. Okay. On the second, you pay rent of 10,000 to ABC property. Again, you ask yourself the first question, is this a client transaction or a business? This is clearly a business because you cannot pay rent for a client. So again, you're going to come to the cash book, the business cash book. Is this a payment or is this a deposit? That is the second question you ask yourself. And the question says you are paying for rent. So you need to credit, pay rent.
Hello, can I ask a question, please?
Go ahead.
Are the dates not important in this transaction, or we can just leave them out?
Let's see. But this question doesn't say whether, it doesn't have instructions, so you can include them. I think you should include them
Okay, thank you.
because there's no instructions. So just include it just in case. But for me, I'm not going to include it because I hate including dates. Okay, so we paid, yes.
Can I name the rent transaction? Can I say rent expense or
Yes,
just
any
okay.
description is acceptable. That's as long as you put the 10,000. Thank you for asking that question, guys. Another thing that I want to mention, any description is acceptable, guys. As long as you put in the correct amount, you will be fine. Just give a description that makes sense. Like pay rent. Okay, now we need to enter the pay rent on the second book of entry. This book now, it's either you call it a rent ledger. For me personally, I like naming them after the transaction. You can call it the rent ledger or you can call it ABC properties ledger. But personally for me, when it's a business ledger or a general ledger, I like to name it after the transaction. Then you're going to go to the opposite side here and just say pay rent. 10,000. I always use the same description also again so that I can be able to track my transactions. Because remember, double entry principle requires us to have 2 entries every single time. If I enter a transaction on one book, it must also be entered on another book. That is a requirement. Number 3, on the third, it says your client Black deposits 200,000 by EFT into your trust account. Now, I'm going to need a volunteer for those 2 questions that I said. Whenever you read a transaction, you must ask yourself, who's going to be my volunteer?
Lawrence.
Me.
Okay, Lawrence. Your client Black deposits 200,000 by EFT. Is that a business transaction or a client transaction?
Mike, it's a client transactions that is, that goes to TCB.
Correct. Now, another question that follows. Is this a payment or is this a deposit?
It's a deposit.
The deposit.
It's a deposit, correct. So like Mr. Lawrence said, this transaction is going to go to the, anything that is related to the client must first go to the TCB. That is where it's supposed to be, trust cash book. Now you ask yourself, did the client Black deposit the money or did we pay on his behalf? He deposited. Deposit Black 200,000. There we go. Now, for double entry, you no longer use general ledgers because when we have to use the trust, we no longer use general ledgers, but instead we use what we call trust ledgers. And a trust ledger must be named after a client. Our client is black, so we're going to have the black trust ledger. Black trust ledger. On the opposite side here, deposit black 200,000. Are you talking to me? The lady who's saying something, are you talking to me or you're talking to someone else? Okay, let's continue.
Before we continue, can I please ask a question?
Yes.
Is it necessary when we do the trust cash book to say trust cash book section 86.2, or it's not necessary?
No, not necessary.
All right.
Yes. You just leave that. The lady who's speaking in the background, please turn off your mic. The lady with the kid who's speaking in the background, please turn off your mic. Okay, she's turning it
Don't
off.
worry, sir. I muted him here.
Okay, let's continue. The transaction on the third, again, there was more than one transaction on the third. There is the second one. You pay office rent of 11,500, inclusive of VAT, to ABC Property, your landlord, who is VAT registered. Okay. Now we ask ourselves the same question again. Is it a business or a client transaction? We already talked about it. Rent can never be a client transaction. It's always a business transaction. So we're gonna go back to our BCB. Let's, guys, try to minimize opening many books if you already have that book. Like, for example, we already have this BCB right here. So that is the one that we are going to use. Okay. Is the rent a payment or a deposit? We realize that it's a payment. We're gonna say pay rent 11,500. Now, this answer is going to be different from the first answer. The first answer that we gave and this new answer that we gave now for the payment of the rent of 11,500, it's going to be different. Different how? In this question here now on the third, we are paying rent, but we are also paying VAT. This means that the 10,000 was a deposit. The other one, the 11,500, is the actual rent. Now, when we are paying with VAT included, we need to do a step further. We need to open 2 extra books. So we're going to open the rent one we already have, so we are not going to open it anymore. So the another book that we need to open is what we call the VAT input. Anyone who knows what VAT input is? These are like questions that are going to be asked at oral. What is VAT input?
The VAT that you pay for expense. Oh God.
Do you want to repeat?
The VAT which you pay
VAT
to
payable.
other registered VAT vendors.
VAT vendors.
There we go. Yes. It's the VAT that is paid by a practitioner when they become a customer to another VAT vendor. Why is it so important? Because you can claim it back if you are a VAT vendor. If you're not a VAT vendor, you can't claim it back. But if you are a VAT vendor, you can claim it back. This information that I'm just talking about now, it's for people who are going for orals. Guys, when you get into the exam and they tell you that, what is VAT input? You're going to tell them, VAT input is VAT that is paid by a practitioner when he becomes a customer to another business that is registered for VAT. The practitioner and the business must all be registered for VAT. The practitioner can claim back the VAT from SARS. The VAT input, you can claim it back from SARS if you are a registered VAT vendor for most things. if they say, give us example of the VAT input that you can claim back, you can just say rent, obviously. Now you need to calculate what is 15% of 11,500.
Can I ask, in the
Yes.
exam, like for exam purposes, if I just write VAT, would I be marked wrong? Do I have to specify that it's VAT input or VAT output?
Yeah, I
The
think you should
account,
specify.
the ledger.
Yes, you need to specify because there are two types, and VAT output is always there. If there's no VAT input, if there's VAT input is the one that is always not there, but VAT output is always there. But if they are there together, you need to put them as input and output. If input is
Okay.
not there, it's fine. You can just write VAT.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Okay. Now we're gonna calculate the 15% of the 11,500. We're gonna say 11,500 multiplied by 15 divided by 115. That is gonna give you 1,500. So the formula for calculating VAT inclusive, you say the amount multiplied by 15 divided by 115. It gives you the VAT, which is going to be on the debit side. VAT rent 1,500. And then on the VAT, on the rent itself here, you're gonna go and put the 10,000. Pay rent 1,500, just like that. And that is how you answer that question where there is VAT. Because in this scenario here, the practitioner and the business where ABC Property is a VAT vendor and the practitioner is also a VAT vendor. Yes, is that a question?
Yes, why do we debit the VAT?
Because it's positive, you're going to claim it back. VAT output is the one that you always credit. VAT input is always debit.
Sorry, are we not supposed to say the rent is 10,000 since we deducted the 1.5 for the VAT?
Oh yeah, it's one-ish. I made a mistake there, sorry. Yes, it's 10,000. I wrote 1,500 again by mistake. Thank you for noticing that. Yes, it's supposed to be 10,000, you're right.
So
Thank you.
the VAT, is it like an income to the business? Or is it a
it like the-
liability?
Yes, it's an income to the business. The VAT input, it's income to the business. We
So
can
if it's
say it like
income,
that.
I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I believe that income increases on the credit side. So we're not supposed to credit it.
You
If
said
we
it
get-
what?
It's
Can you
it's a
repeat that?
liability. You say the VAT is a liability to the business, right?
No, VAT input is not a liability. VAT
It's an
output is the
income.
liability.
Sorry?
VAT output is the one that is a liability. VAT input is not a liability because you can claim it back
income.
from SARS.
It's an income.
Not really an income. Let's just say it's not income. It's not a liability. It's like in the middle because it's your money that you're claiming back from SARS.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
So we debit both the accounts that we debit both the rent expense and the VAT, and then we credit the business cash book.
Yes, because on the business, it's where we determine whether it's a payment or a deposit. And then on the other books, we do the opposite of what we did on the business cash book.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Let's
Sorry,
continue. Yes.
Before you can proceed, just on this ledger for the rent, right?
Mm-hmm.
It says pay rent 10,000, pay rent 10,000. So I'm just asking, were we supposed to say for the first one 10,000, or we're just supposed to put it as 11.5
For
the first one? Does
for the
I don't know. I'm a bit confused as to why we're having two 10,000s reflecting as the payment for rental. Is one not supposed to be 11,500? Then when we come back again, we record the one without the VAT.
The second one is because we minused VAT. So that's why it's 10,000. The other one was just 10,000. You see, the second one here, it's 10,000. The amount that's supposed to make it 11,500, it's down here on VAT.
Okay.
Yes.
Mike, can I please ask something?
Hello, can I ask something?
Yes.
On the formula that you just deleted, I just saw, is it 15 over 115? Why isn't it 15 over 100?
Because it's no longer, it's already included. You see, we are just trying to separate that. The formula that you're talking about, the one that is 100, ne? It's when you're trying to calculate it and add it on top of the amount. Now, the
Also, when
11,000.
you
Yeah?
subtract it, it's 115.
Yeah, when you're supposed to extract it, yes. It's 115.
Okay.
Not that VAT input ledger. Isn't the 1,500 supposed to be at the credit side, because now
No,
you can
VAT
claim
input
that
is
money back?
always debit side.
Oh,
VAT
okay.
output is the one that is always credit. There are two different VATs. There is VAT output, there is VAT input. Input, it's always on the debit side. VAT output is the one that is always on the credit side. The one that you get for fees is the one that is always on the credit side.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Mike, can I please ask on this VAT for the rent, the double entry rule doesn't apply? I'm
It
a little
applied. We
Okay.
applied the double entry principle because on the first book, it was on credit. On the second book, it was on debit.
Okay, as 10,000.
Yes, as 10,000 and also as 1,500.
Okay.
They are both on debit because on the first book, it's on credit.
Yeah, Mike.
Yes. This will be the last question
yeah.
for this one. After this one, no more
No, it's
questions for
actually
this one.
it's just to assist to say that VAT that we charge is on the credit, and VAT that is charged on us is on the debit. The same way that when you do an allowance, that VAT goes on the debit side. I hope that helps.
Correct. Thank you for that. No more questions on the VAT stuff. If you do not understand it by now, let's move on. Okay. The transaction that happened on the 4th. You purchase office furniture for 20,000 per HP agreement with XYZ Furniture. Okay, now this sounds like a credit agreement. What is an HP agreement? Anyone who knows?
Yes, Mike, I can try that.
Yes, what is it?
Here.
Hire purchase.
Hire purchase. Business journal.
Correct. High purchase. Today I just learned another term for credit. Before we go on, let's just talk about the terms that mean on credit. Credit, that's the first term. It means you're buying without money. Credit. Second one is financing. If you read a question and it says through financing, it means it's on credit. Third one, on account. If it says on account, it means you're buying on credit. So the other one is HP agreement. That's a new one for me. I've never seen it before. I'm just seeing it now. We learn every day. Okay, so HP agreement, like somebody said, high purchase agreement, it's also buying on credit. You use a what? A business journal. Remember, whenever there's no movement of money, we use journals. I hope everybody who's going to write tomorrow knows this. When there is no movement of money, we are supposed to use journals. So we're going to use a business journal. Details, DR, CR. What were we buying here?
Office furniture.
Office furniture.
Yes, we always start with the product. We're going to start with office furniture, followed by the company that we are buying from, XYZ.
XYZ.
XYZ Furniture. And the
reason
reason for this, bought furniture on credit. The furniture was worth 20,000. So also on the other side, we'll put 20,000. And then we are going to do double entry. We are going to have two general ledgers, the office furniture and the XYZ furniture company. So let's just put this one here. Office furniture ledger. And XYZ furniture ledger. The office ledger, office furniture ledger is going to be on the debit side. Just put credit here, 20,000. And on the XYZ furniture, let's just put credit here, 20,000. And just like that, this is how you do your business journal. Usually in this conveyancing questions, they don't talk about business journal, but in this question here specifically, this question includes also basic principles. We haven't even started conveyancing yet, as you can see. Has anyone noticed that?
Yes.
Yes. We haven't even started with conveyancing. We are going to start now with conveyancing from the 5th of April. On the 5th of April, you receive 500 EFT deposit from Mr. Investor to be held in trust pending the happening of a future event. Mr. Investor instructs you to purchase coded shares for 100,000, which you pay to the stockbroker. Let's start on the first one. The first one says there was a deposit by a client. When there's a deposit by a client, it means we have to use the trust cash book. This Mr. Investor is a client. Deposit Mr. Investor. So when Mr. Investor deposits his money, we need to debit it on the TCB. After debiting it on the TCB, we need to open Mr. Investor Trust Ledger. Just gonna open it down here. Mr. Investor Trust Ledger. That is the name of the book that we are going to open. Mr. Investor Trust Ledger. On the opposite side, we're going to say deposit Mr. Investor. Then we put the 500,000. Okay, that is how you enter the transaction there, the 500,000 EFT deposit, because it's a client transaction and it's a deposit. My next question is the following. Mr. Investor instructs you to purchase quoted shares. What type of investment is that?
Rule 55.
Rule 55.
Rule 55 investment. This is not section 86.3 or section 86.4. This is rule 55. Whenever you see something about buying shares in bookkeeping, just know that I have entered the dimension of rule 55 investments. And with these types of investments, they are different from section 86.3 and section 86.4. How? Anyone? They're different because of one thing. What is that?
86.3
The legal
is
practice does not benefit.
Okay, besides that one, the most important, the practical one.
It's buying shares.
Not
It's
buying shares,
risky.
yes, but that is also qualifies. But what is it?
It's risky.
Maybe
The shares are not
The
you
insured.
don't open a letter for.
Correct. There we go. I like what that
Don't
lady
open a
said.
letter.
You do
Yes.
not open an investment ledger. You only use the TCB and the client trust ledger. There is no need for you to open an investment ledger like section 86.3 or section 86.4, where you have to open an extra ledger for the investment and the LPFF. There is no LPFF ledger here. There is no investment ledger. And all the other reasons that other people mentioned, they are also true. It's risky. You need a mandate. Yeah, so forth and so forth. You don't pay LPFF anything. That is also true. So let's go ahead and buy our quoted shares for the 5th of April. So we're just gonna say buy quoted shares. So we buy the quoted shares worth 100,000. We need to do double entry of us buying the shares on Mr. Investor because we are buying for Mr. Investor. On the opposite side, we're just gonna say buy quoted shares, which is 100,000. There we go. That's how it's done for Rule 55. We bought the shares. Okay, let's continue to the 7th. To the 7th of April, you receive a cash deposit of 35,000 from your client Sipho to register a company on his behalf. Another client again. We're gonna go back to the first TCB, the trust cash book, because we are dealing with yet another client. This new client deposits money also again on the 7th of April. He deposits at 35,000. Deposit Sipho 35,000. Double entry, we need to open Sipho Trust Ledger. I hope you are seeing the trend of the double entry where we have to open 2 ledgers every time, 2 books every time there is one client. So we're going to have Sipho Trust Ledger. On the opposite side, deposit Sipho. How much did Sipho deposit? Sipho deposited 35,000. 35,000. There we go. That is how you do that transaction where we have to deal with Sipho. The transaction will start from the trust and it will go to the trust ledger. Okay, on the same question, it says you draft the trust deed and charge a fee of 2,000. What type of transaction is that?
It's a fee journal.
Fee journal.
Fee journal. It's a
Oh.
fee. We are no longer dealing with, there's no movement of money now. We have to use a journal. When you charge a fee, there is no movement of money yet, because charging a fee is like telling someone you owe me 10,000. When I tell you that you owe me 10,000, you're not paying me the 10,000. I'm just letting you know. So there's our fee journal. We're going to have our details. DR and CR. Since for this question, I have read it to the bottom there, we are a VAT vendor. We are going to have 3 options. We are going to have Sipho business, fee, VAT. Reason for this is, what did we draft? Drafting. Let's just say drafting. You can say drafting, trust deed, or draft.
Trust deed.
Yes. So we charge 2,000. Can someone tell me between the 3 options, between Sipho business, fee, and VAT, which one is the 2,000 and why?
The fee,
The
Why
fee.
is the fee the 2,000?
because it's exclusive of VAT.
Because it's VAT exclusive. Thank you. VAT there is going to be 2,000, even though the VAT exclusive is not written. If the amount is not written VAT exclusive, it's always VAT exclusive by default. So we're just gonna put the 2,000 here. Let's calculate 15% of 2,000. How much is that?
3.
300 rand.
300. And Sipho business?
2.3.
2,300.
2,300. Fee plus VAT. Anyone who is still confused with regards to the fee, because this carries a lot of marks in the exams? Is there anyone who has a question on how we came up with this amount?
I have a question as to how did we figure out that we're supposed to include VAT?
Okay, you see at the end of the question there where it's written in like bold and black. At the end of the question, there's like
at
black
the
letters.
bottom.
Yes, at the bottom.
Yes.
You are required to record the above transactions in your accounting records. You are registered for VAT. That is how we know.
Oh, I missed that part. Thank you.
Mike,
Yes.
I want to ask, how do we know that we are charging the Sipho's business, not Sipho's trust?
Because a fee, it's always related to Sipho's business.
Okay, so we can't charge it to the trust ever.
No, we can't say Sipho Trust.
Okay.
We
Yes.
always say
Another
Sipho
way
business.
in which you can explain that one.
Yes.
Yes. So since Sipho owes us 2,000 in terms of fees, so Sipho becomes a debtor to the business. So
Correct.
yeah, that's how you can see it. It's not the
don't worry.
trust, but now.
Thank you.
Yes.
Don't worry. I see you are worried about your fees. You'll pay yourself at the end of the matter once everything is done. For now, we'll just make him a debtor.
Correct. Now we need to do double entry because everything that we have, we need to enter it 2 times. So we are going to open 3 ledgers. Guys, in order for you to determine how many ledgers you're going to open for a journal, you look at how many number or how many amounts you have inside the journal. If it's 3, you need 3 ledgers. If it's 2, you need 2 ledgers. And you just name them after the details. So we're just gonna say CPO business like that and just add the word ledger. We're just gonna say fee, just add the word ledger.
Okay.
And then VAT, but now for VAT, we need to go an extra mile and say VAT output. Because this one, it's output now, it has to be credit. Automatically, every time you're dealing with VAT output, it's credit. CPO business, it's on the debit side, it's fee plus VAT, 2,300. Fee, it's 2,000 on the credit side. And the VAT, it's 300 on the credit side. Just like that, we are done with that fee. Seems like we haven't even entered conveyancing yet. Is there conveyancing on this question? I'm really starting to doubt that it's a conveyancing question. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, I don't think there's conveyancing here. Okay, so we continue. On the 11th, it says bank charges are debited to your business account in the amount of 200. There we go. Now we ask ourselves again, is this a business or a trust transaction?
It's a business.
It's a business. Is this a payment or a deposit?
The payment.
It's a payment because bank charges can never be a deposit. The bank cannot charge you and it gives you money. Nope, doesn't happen like that. Pay bank charges. How much are they? 200. And then you open your general ledger at the bottom there, because every time you have to deal with the business, you deal with the general ledger.
Why does the transaction say debit? I got lost there.
Why does it say debit?
Yes.
How do I explain this?
Or maybe it was debited on the bank statement.
Yeah, it was debited on your thingy, on your bank account. Yeah, it was debited on a bank account, which means also, yes, it reflects on your statement. It's just that there is no, I don't want to explain it here because this is not bank reconciliation. Just take debit as a payment. When it says debit, just take it as a payment.
Okay.
Yes, just use it as another word for payment. You pay secretary a salary of 6,000. What about that one? Business. Oh, I haven't entered here. Sorry. Pay bank charges. 200. Now my question is, what about paying your secretary? Business or trust?
Business.
Business.
That is a business transaction because your employee, your, what do you call it? Your clients can never pay your secretary. It's none of their business. So pay secretary. Okay, pay secretary. How much did we pay this secretary? 6,000-ish. The secretary is not earning shame.
Yeah.
And then we are going to do double entry for the salaries. This one we can just name it salary ledger. or salary, general ledger. Remember, you can write general ledger or just leave it as ledger. Pay secretary. At 6,000. There we go. Okay, we move on to on the 16th. You pay XYZ Furniture the first installment of 2,000 for the purchase of the furniture. Is this still a non-cash or is this cash?
Cash.
Cash.
Can somebody explain to me the difference between paying the XYZ Furniture and transaction number? What was that transaction? Transaction number, let me look for it. Which other transaction has the furniture company?
Right, purchase.
The 4th of April transaction.
Number 4 for the 4th of April.
Yes, for the 4th of April. Can somebody tell me the difference?
Yeah, when
Why
it's-
did we enter
oh,
the
yeah,
other
when
one
it's-
on the business journal and why do we enter the other one on the BCB?
The one on the
one,
fourth.
the first
other
one
one
we
is
purchased.
credit.
One person, please.
The first
first
one we
one-
purchased it on credit.
The first one?
We purchased it on credit.
And the second one?
And the
Cash.
second one,
Cash. Okay. So yes. So the difference lies in that on the 4th of April, there was no movement of money. On the 16th, there is now movement of money. When there is no movement of money, we use journals. When there is movement of money, we use cash books. So we're gonna go to our BCB. I hope somebody got that. If it was new to someone, I hope they got it.
Please repeat it again.
Okay, so the transaction on the 4th, you see that transaction on the 4th that say you pay, you purchase office furniture for 20,000 per HP agreement. There is no movement of money there. Because when you purchase on credit, there is no movement of money. For example, it's like this. When you go to Vodacom and say you want to take out the iPhone 16, they say you will start paying at the end of November. On the 1st of November, like today, is there movement of money? I'm asking the lady who said, repeat. Are you still there? Okay, let's continue with our question. You pay XYZ Furniture, XYZ Furniture, 2,000. That was the first installment. We are going to do double entry on the XYZ General Ledger. Here. Pay XYZ Furniture. The amount was how much? 2,000. Okay, we just answered that one. Let's continue. You pay the Legal Practice Council membership of 1,000. So this one will also go to the BCB because it's a business transaction. Pay LPC fees, which were 1,000. Then we're going to do double entry for that LPC. We're just going to open an LPC General Ledger. LPC Ledger. On the opposite side here, on the debit side, we're just going to say pay LPC fees, which was 1,000. Yes. The last question says, Mr. Investor instructs you to sell the shares. You receive 105. We are going to go back to the BCB. When you sell your shares, you see, when you buy shares, you are paying. When you sell shares, your money is coming back. So when the money comes back, it's now a deposit. So we're going to go to the TCB on the debit side because money is coming back to us. When we buy the shares, yeah, the money was leaving. Sell quoted shares. That was 105, which means we gained 5,000. Now you need to do double entry of the sell quoted shares on Mr. Investor. So we're going to look for Mr. Investor on the credit side, sold quoted shares. That is Rule 55, investments. Just like that, we entered it there. Clear? Okay, yes. Okay, so we entered all the transactions from the 1st until the 30th. Now let's read those words in black. What do they say? You are required to
Sorry.
record, yes.
Yes, for the shares, we don't separate the interest. We just write it like this as a 105. We
Yes.
don't specify the capital and the interest.
Yes, you don't.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay.
So those black letters down there, they say the following. You are required to record the above transaction in your accounting records. We already did that. You are a registered VAT vendor for purposes and should therefore provide for VAT where applicable. We also did that. Now, here is what we haven't done. Transfer whatever you are entitled to your business banking account. Now we need to transfer whatever we are entitled to our business account. How do we determine how much we are entitled to? This is something that I'm going to tell you now. You use your client's business ledger. You need to look for a business ledger that you have in order to determine how much you are entitled to. And in this whole question, we only have SIPO business ledger, which means SIPO is the only one who owes us. So we're going to go to the business ledger of the client to determine how much the client owes us. When you get to the business ledger, it's debit side minus credit side. That will give you the answer. In this scenario here, there's only 2,300 on the debit side minus nothing on the credit side, which means SIPO owes us 2,300. Now, we are going to pay ourselves that 2,300 via the TCB to the BCB. Why? Because we are transferring money from the trust to the business, the money that we are owed. So we're going to go to our TCB. There we go. Just say pay yourself the 2,300 on the credit side. Then we debit the BCB because that's where the money is going. Pay yourself 2,300. After doing that step, what do you trigger?
It's
Transfer channel.
You trigger the transfer journal. So every time there's movement of money between the TCB and the BCB, you trigger the transfer journal. That is what comes after that. You trigger it. Some people do believe that the transfer journal comes before that step. No, it doesn't. I think this was like an extra step that was taken as a precaution so that you do not easily steal money from the trust, because you have to tell us that you actually transferred money between your business and your trust, because that is how attorneys steal money. In actual reality, that is how some of you are going to steal money. Okay. On the transfer journal, you always relate to the person you are transferring from. So it's going to be SIPO Trust to SIPO Business. The reason for this is value transfer always. Remember the reason for the transfer journal, it's always value transfer. You write your 2,300 there. Your 2,300 there. Double entry, you look for SIPO Trust and SIPO Business. There's SIPO Business. On the credit side, you're just gonna say value transfer. 2,300. You look for SIPO Trust on the debit side. Value transfer. 2,300. And just like that, you have paid yourself or you have transferred whatever you are entitled to. So the step of transferring what you are entitled to, you start from the TCB, you credit it, you go to the BCB, you debit it, then you trigger the transfer journal. That is the step of paying yourself. Now, there's only one last thing on that question that we need to answer. Calculate your trust cash book balance. Noise, people. Izanga, people are making noise. The Izanga people, please turn off your mics. Okay, now let's talk about how do you calculate the balance of the trust cash book. Now, when you calculate the balance of the trust cash book, you're going to go to the trust cash book, look at the credit side and the debit side. Which side do you think has a bigger amount when you add it together?
The debit side.
The debit side,
side.
obviously. You're
Debit
going
side.
to add everything on the debit side, 200,000 plus 500,000 plus 35,000 plus 105,000. That is going to give you a total of 840. So this total, you're going to use it on both sides. Total 840. After that, you know that the credit side does not equal to 840,000, right? Now, the difference here is called the balance carried forward. That is the amount that is making this side not to be equal to that amount. So balance CF. You need to calculate the balance CF. So in order to calculate, you're going to minus everything on the credit side from the 840,000. So I'm just going to go and say 840,000 minus 100,000 minus 2,300. That gives us 737,700. That is the balance of the trust cash book. The 737,700 is the balance of the trust cash book. And just like that, you get your total 21 marks.
Can I ask, so when I look at all three of our creditors, they still have money remaining in their account. So don't we also transfer those back to them?
No, they didn't say that we should here. You see, they said only transfer what you are entitled to your banking, to your business banking, and then calculate the trust cash book balance. Yes, they didn't say we should transfer back the money.
Okay, let's say we had to transfer. Let's just take Sipho, for example. So he's paid us back our 2,000 and then we have the remaining balance. Then how would we transfer the amount back to him?
You just go to Sipho's trust. Where is it? There's Sipho's trust. You just calculate the difference. The money that he deposited, debit side minus credit side again. So this guy deposited 35,000. We only used how much of his money? That should be the question. That is how you calculate. It's the money that he deposited minus the money that we used on his behalf. So we only used 2,300. We only used 2,300 from his 35,000. Then you transfer back the remaining amount.
Is how do I transfer back the remaining amount? Do I do the transfer journal?
Nope. Transfer journal is only when you're paying yourself. Refunding your client, it's like a disbursement. You're just going to credit the TCB and debit the client trust ledger.
I credit the TCB and debit the client's ledger.
The client. Mm-hmm. Any other question before we continue?
Hi, Mike. Please just go. Please explain. Please explain how we determine how much we're entitled to. Just a brief.
Okay.
That didn't catch. Yeah.
No problem. Whenever you are required to transfer what you're entitled to, you need to look for the business, what do you call it? Business ledger of any client. So any business ledger that is available, it will help you determine how much you're entitled to. In this question, we only have this one for Sipho, right? That comes from the fee journal, right? Because he's the only one we charged a fee on. And as a lawyer, you only make money through fees. So when we charged the Sipho, we ended up with the business ledger. So we use the business ledger to determine how much we are entitled to. You go to the client's business ledger, debit side minus credit side, it gives you the amount that you are entitled to. So here there was nothing here. This amount came after we paid ourselves. Though this amount was not there, so it means that SIPO owed us 2,300 because it's 2,300 minus nothing on the credit side. It's 2,300 that SIPO owed. That is how you determine how much you're entitled to. You use a business ledger. Any business, if they don't mention a name, they just say transfer what you're entitled to. You need to use all the business ledgers that you have to determine how much you're entitled to. So that is how you get it.
Sorted. Thank you.
Awesome. Any other questions before we go to the next question? So we won't do question 2 now. We're just going to start with question 3. I think question 2 we'll do it after a break. Just going to take a little break. Then we'll do question 2 when we come back. But now we're just going to do question 3. Question 2, we'll do it after the break. So do we have any other questions before I continue to question 3?
Yeah, Mike, please, can you explain the when you buy stuff in credit again? I just sort of like missed that.
Okay, no problem. Let's go to the business journal. Oh, okay. Before we start to the business journal, if you see any of these statements in your transaction, if you read a transaction and you see these 3 statements, you buy on credit, you buy through financing, you buy on account, you buy through an HP agreement. This means that you are buying on credit, which means you're not going to use your cash books. Instead, you're going to use your business journal. When it's time to buy something for the business on credit, you use a business journal. Why do we use a business journal? Because there is no movement of money. When you're buying on credit, there is no movement of money. Let me give you an example, Sfiso. If you go to Vodacom and you say you want an iPhone 16 on contract, they're going to say, okay, it's fine, Sfiso, you're going to pay us 899 per month, but you're going to start paying at the end of November. They're going to give you the phone today. They're going to say, yes, Sfiso, take your phone and go. But there was no movement of money between you two, even though you purchased something. So in order for you to reflect that, you need to show it as a business journal transaction. So that is how it came to be that you need to record it in the business journal. Yes. Now, when you draft your business journal, you always start with the object that you bought, followed by the company. So the object is always debit and the company is always credit.
Right.
That's it.
Okay. No, got it.
Yes. Awesome. Any other questions before we do that one?
Yes, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, when we look at the transaction on the 5th of April, there's a part that says, Mr. Investor instructs you to purchase quoted shares for 100,000, which you pay to the stockbroker. So the last part of the question, isn't there any significance?
There isn't any.
Because when I was doing the question, I actually opened an account for a stockbroker. So
you're not supposed to do that. That is Rule 55. The only thing that is special about Rule 55 is you use the TCB and the client's trust ledger. That is all. You do not need to open a stockbroker. You only open investment accounts for Section 86.3, Section 86.4. That's it.
Okay, is it possible for the attorney to buy the shares, but without the instruction of the client? Is it possible for that to happen? And if yes, then how do we deal with that case?
That is the fastest way for you to get your disbarred, and they're like, no, man, you can leave this profession. You can leave the profession if you want to do that. If you want to be struck off the roll so quickly, do that, because these investments are risky. Your client is guaranteed to lose money here. That's why, for those who are going for oral, here's a little information that you need to know. That is why the LPFF does not insure this money. You see, the LPFF insures almost all the money that is in your trust. But once you get into Rule 55 investments, that money is no longer insured. If that money is lost, it's lost. So you need to be careful of that. Because if you invest your client's money without their permission, you lose the money. The client will go to the LPC and be like, hey, you know this man. LPC will call you, come and explain. You come up with excuses. They're like, fine. Please, leave. That's how it goes. Okay, I think we are done with that question. Let's do question 3. Okay, so question 3 is what we call extractions. So question 3. So let me just go back to the first one here. This is not conveyancing, guys. Sorry. This is basic principles. So here the examiner wanted to know if you know the basic principles. This was not conveyancing. It was just basic principles and investments. That is another thing that I saw on this question. Even though conveyancing is part of, yeah. Okay, so let's deal with question 3, guys. So question 3, whenever you see that little table there, that is immediately an extraction question. That is exactly what we call the extraction question. When you see extractions, you see there are 3 tables, right, or column. There's column number 1, column number 2, and column number 3. So when you see extractions in your exam, just increase the number of columns. Instead of just having 3 columns, add 2 more. So you see, we now have 5. Initially, there were 3, I added 2 more. So this one, the first one is always going to be called the clients, obviously, because we're going to put the names of the clients. The second one, okay, so the ones that are already there, like the trust balance, is going to be at the end. Trust balance and business balance. Now, the new columns that we added, what are we going to call them? We're going to call them the following: transfer from trust to business. Transfer from trust to business. The other one is going to be called transfer from business to trust. So, like I said, when you see extractions, just know that you need to add extra 2 columns. So your first client is King. The second one is David. And the third one is Maria. The third one is Maria. Now, there are 4 rules that control this thing here. And I'm not going to write them down. I'm just going to explain them. So listen carefully. You can take them down if you want. But me, I'm not going to write them down. Okay, so these are the principles that control extractions. Number 1, the trust balance. You see on your question paper there's something called trust balance. The trust balance is the money clients have in the trust. So I'm writing definition of what it means. So when you see the words trust balance, it means that is the money the clients have in the trust. The business balance means something completely different. It doesn't mean what you think it means. The business balance, it means money that a client owes to the business. So it's money that a client owes the law firm. Those are the first 2 principles. The third principle, any bracket that is found on the business balance, it means it's an over transfer. You transferred money that was not supposed to come to the business. You over transferred money. That's what the bracket in the business balance means. The bracket in the trust balance, it means there is a shortfall. There is missing money of 2,500 in the trust. Completely different things. Those things, they mean completely different. Okay, now it's time to answer the question.
Mike, can you please repeat that?
Which part?
You said 3 things, and I felt like you were saying them too
I
fast.
said
I was
4.
writing because 4.
I said 4. Mhm. So trust balance,
Okay, I
I'm
only
gonna
got the
repeat them
second.
now. So trust balance is the money the client has in the trust. If it's king and there's 50,000 under the trust balance, he has 50,000 in the trust. The business balance is the money that the client owes. If king has 50,000 in the trust balance, in the business balance, it means king owes 50,000 to the business. Those are the first two principles. The trust balance, money a client has. Business balance, money a client owes. Let's continue to the last two principles. The bracket in the business balance, it means that it's the money that was over transferred. That money is not supposed to be there if the bracket is under business balance. If there's an amount under business balance with a bracket, it means that money belongs to the trust. It's not supposed to be in the business account. Now, if the bracket is in the trust balance, it means that money is not supposed to be in the trust. It means there is a shortfall in the trust. It means there is missing money in the trust. So a bracket under the trust balance, it means there is missing money. Those are the 4 principles. Now I'm going to ask a question. My first question is the following. How much does King have in his trust?
10,000.
And how much does he owe the business?
120,000.
Is this guy going to be able to pay all his debt?
No.
How much of his debt is he going to be able to pay?
10,000.
And how much will he still owe?
110,000.
Thank you. That is correct. So transfer from trust to business. How much are we going to transfer from the business to the trust?
From the business? Nothing.
Oh,
10,000.
no. Transfer from trust to business.
It's 10,000.
10,000.
It's 10,000. And from business to trust?
0.
Zero. And what is King's new balance?
110,000.
It's 0.
Trust balance is 0.
It's
Business
0.
balance 110,000.
He doesn't have anything anymore because he transferred the money. Now, how much does he still owe the business?
110,000.
110,000. That is how this works. That is how this works. Okay, we're gonna move on to David. How much does David have in the trust?
3,000. 3,000.
And how much does he owe the business?
2.3. He doesn't owe the business. He does not owe the business. The
He
business
doesn't
owes
owe
him.
the business. What does the 2,300 in brackets under business mean?
It means that there was money that was
Over
transferred from him.
transfer.
Over transfer, correct. Now, how much do we transfer from business how much do we transfer from trust to business?
0.
0, the correct answer. And how much do we transfer from business to trust?
2,300.
2,300. And what is our new trust balance?
5,300.
5,300. And what is the business balance?
0.
0. Correct. Now we have Maria. How much? Yes.
Can you please explain again for David? I'm not sure if I understood.
Which part?
The beginning, we have 3,000 in the trust. We have 3,000 in the trust, right?
Yes.
Then why are we not writing the 3,000?
Why are we not writing the 3,000 where?
Under transfer trust to business.
On the transfer from trust to business, because he doesn't owe the business anything. You see, the balances that are on the business, it's what the guy owes. And I said, when there is money in brackets in the trust, what does that mean?
Over transfer.
Over transfer. The 2,300, it's not supposed to be in the business balance. It's supposed to go back to the trust. That's why the trust balance is now 5,300, because it's 3,000 plus the 2,300. Okay, Let me just finish this quickly because I want to take a break. You guys can remain behind and explain to each other. Then after a few minutes, I'm going to come back and we're going to do question number 2. So let's just finish off this question. Okay, let's talk about Maria. How much does Maria owe the business?
6,000.
6,000.
6,000. How much does Maria have in the trust?
0.
Zero. Zero. And what does the 2,500 in brackets mean in the trust balance?
Shortfall.
Shortfall. There is missing money. And how much do we transfer from trust to business?
0.
Zero. And how much do we transfer from business to trust?
2,500.
2,500 is the amount. What is our new trust balance?
0.
It's 0. And what is our business balance?
8,500.
8,500. The 2,500 plus the 6,000, it gives us 8,500, which is the money that is owed to the business. Now, I'm going to give you 15 minutes break. Some of you can remain behind and ask questions from others to explain to you this extraction. When I come back after 15 minutes, we are going to do question 2. Feel free to ask others questions, guys. They know answers.
Sir, is it possible if we can have the recording plus the answers?
I'll give you the answers. Okay, we are on a break now. I'll be back at 1940. Not 1940, sorry, 1950. It's 15 minutes break.
Hi guys.
Hello, Mr. Lawrence.
Anybody?
How are you?
Fine, thank you, sir. How are you?
Thank you very much. Kama.
Hello all.
How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thanks. I just want to ask this. The Maria 2.5 is the money that he owes.
No,
And
it's
then
shortfall in the
David
trust.
is a shortfall. And then David 2.3.
It was supposed to go in his trust. So it
Okay.
was an over transfer.
Okay. I think I'm here now. I was a bit late, and question one I didn't get it clear. I don't know if there's anybody who can assist from 1 April 2022. If there's anybody.
Yes, what do you need assistance with?
You
best
as
transaction.
you as a proprietor deposit 100,000 into your business account to commence practice. I don't know what to do. How do I trigger this?
Okay, so this is basically capital that you put into the business, right? So the two accounts which will be affected, it's your capital and your business cash book. So we'll debit the business cash book and then we will credit your capital with the
Okay.
100,000 deposit.
Okay.
So the capital becomes a liability because now it's like the business owes you since you as the attorney invested the money into the business. And then your bank increases, your assets basically they increase.
Yeah.
Sorry guys, I just got here. Which question paper is this? Which question paper is he dealing with right now?
July 2022.
Okay, thank
The
you.
lead paper.
And then 2 April, you pay rent deposit of 10,000. Is it the same as the first one or is different this one because of you paying rent deposits? Is the answer still the same as the one that you put?
What do you think the answer is? Like, how would you tackle this? What do you debit? What do you credit?
Remember, rent, the money is going out. It's not like it's not coming to you like a deposit when you deposit that 100,000 into your business. That one is still your money. So, but with this one, I think it goes on credit because the money goes to the property, ABC property. I don't know if I'm making sense.
Which account do you debit and which one do you credit? Okay, which two accounts are affected here?
I think it's business. I think business is being affected.
Yes, and?
I'm not sure about trust.
Okay, this is a business transaction, right? Because we're
Okay.
as our Twitter was saying here, the business cannot pay rent on behalf of their creditors, so it is a business transaction. So we are going to be paying, therefore our business cash book has to be credited, right? Because we are paying the
Okay.
rent. And then the second account, which is also affected, it's the rent expense because we are paying rent. You can say pay rent or rent expense. And then you have to debit the rent because the rent, since this is an expense, the expense increases on the debit side. Therefore, we'll debit rent with 10,000 and credit the business cash book with 10,000.
Okay, no, I get that. Your client deposit 200,000 into your trust. So basically, your money is going It's, your money is increasing here from black deposit of 200,000. So your trust is increasing. So you put it in a credit or in a
This is a trust transaction, right? Since we are receiving money on behalf of the client, right? It's not our money, therefore we cannot put it in the business cash book. So it goes to the trust cash book. Trust cash book is an asset. Assets increase on the debit side. So we'll debit the 200,000. And we also have to open the trust creditor ledger for black. Right? And black is a creditor, and creditors a liability to the business. Therefore, we will credit black's ledger account with the 200,000.
Okay.
Can someone please explain to me the third question, the section on David? I think it's section, the one for David. Can someone please explain to me how this works? I understand the first one, but then the second one, I don't understand it.
Thank you.
Hello, can I ask something? I joined in late. Which paper are you doing?
Okay,
hello. Hello.
We're doing July 2022.
Oh, thank you.
Let's tape, see what. Oh, I should have a goes. One more. Hayi ungafaki emshinini. Sanukisa impahla. Hayi feti.
Is it for competency-based and admission examination?
No, it's a lead paper.
Oh, okay.
My parents. Something to sign. Personally. No one. Japan. I keep catching.
Can someone assist me with extractions?
What do you need help with?
Yes. So I've understood David now. Now the section where we talk about Maria. I don't understand why in the trust balance we end up having 0, whereas we've transferred the 2.5 from business balance. So are we not supposed to have the 2.5 plus the 2.5 which was missing in the trust balance as the trust balance as it has been transferred?
Nothing was transferred from the trust balance. There was no money. There was a shortfall. The brackets mean there was the shortfall of money. So it's actually a minus.
Okay, I understand the first part, the transfer from trust to business. Then we move to transfer from business to trust. So are we not transferring the shortfall? So the portion which was missing, are we not transferring it back to the trust from the business?
We did.
Yes. And then when we look at the trust balance, why is it now 0, whereas we've transferred from business to trust?
Because when we transfer that 2.5 from the business, I get it now, it's 0. Because I get it was short by 0, then we gave them 2.5 again. Now it's back to not.
If I have to explain it in simple terms, this
I don't know
2.5,
if
the 2.5, it was not supposed to be in the trust balance. That is why we ended up with 0. So we took that 2.5 to the business. That is why we ended up with 8,500. So the trust balance will have a 0 because the 2.5 was not supposed to be in the trust balance. Are you following?
So the trust was supposed to be 0.
The 2,500 that is in Maria's trust balance is for the services that have been rendered to Maria. But because Maria does not have money in her trust account, she owes the business 2,500. And we already have an amount of 6,000 that she already owes to the business. So the 2,500 you add it to the existing business balance of 8,000 to make the existing balance of 6,000 to make the 8,500. It's the money that Maria owes to the business. She has received services, but she does not have money to pay. The services are to the amount of 2,500, hence the shortfall.
Okay, guys, I'm back.
Is okay. Yes, Keke.
We're just gonna do the last question. Question 2. Now, question 2 says you received the following statement of account and EFT from your correspondent. Guys, can somebody tell me why did we say this is the instructing?
Because we receive.
Because we received the statement of account. That is correct. When you receive the statement of account, you are the instructing correspondent. If you see the keyword receive tomorrow when you're writing, just know that you are dealing with the instructing correspondent. When you send, if the question says you send a statement of account, that is the instructed, because the instructing will always receive a statement of account from the instructed. The instructing will never send a statement of account to the instructed. No. The instructing is the client in the matter, but the instructed is the attorney. Now, there are 5 steps when it comes to the instructing.
Yeah, no.
We are going to look for 5 amounts instructing correspondent. Number 1, we look for the EFT in the statement. Number 2, we look for the money collected from the defendant. Money collected from defendant. Number 3, we are going to look for fees and disbursements. Number 4, we are going to look for allowance. Number 5, we are going to pay ourselves, pay yourself. Those are the 5 steps of instructing correspondent. So there are 4 amounts that you need to look for in the statement of account. Number 1, EFT. Number 2, money collected. Number 3, fees and disbursements. Number 4, allowance. We are going to do each step individually. We are going to start with the EFT. Look at that statement of account. How much is the EFT in that statement of account?
2,800.
2,850. We are going to record that amount in our trust cash book as a deposit. TCB stands for trust cash book. We're going to say EFT. What is EFT? EFT herewith. That is step number 1. It's going to be 2,850. Then we're going to do double entry. Our client is always the correspondent. So we're going to do double entry on the correspondent trust ledger on the opposite side. EFT herewith 2,850. And that is the nutshell of step number 1 for instructing correspondent. You need to follow steps under instructing. That is step number 1. You record it like that always. The only difference is just going to be the numbers. If instructing correspondent comes tomorrow, the only difference will be the numbers, but the entry has to be the same.
I hope so.
So I'm not
Sorry,
going
Mike.
to, yes.
Sorry, Mike. What about the account to the client?
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, step number 6 is accounting to like refunding the client. It is not necessary to prepare an accounting statement. Okay, so yeah, okay, we'll do that at the end. We can take that as step number 6. We'll see at the end. So guys, as I was trying to say is, I'm not going to be combining the books. I'm going to do each book on each step. Even though I'm repeating books, when you're writing in the exam, you can choose to do it the way I'm doing it, or you can choose to do it the proper way. The proper way is the way for people who know. For those ones who are just here because it's too late, you can follow the method that I'm going to use. Okay. So we are done with step number 1. We are going to step number 2. Step number 2 is money collected from a defendant. What's the name of our defendant in this scenario?
Abel.
Abel is our defendant. How much did we collect from Abel?
5,000.
5,000. 5,000. If you look at the statement of account, there's cash Abel there and a 5,000. That is step number 2, money collected. We are going to use now a trust journal for step number 2. Let me just quickly draft the trust journal. There we go. There's your trust journal details. DRCR. You always start with the correspondent on step number 2. You're going to start with the correspondent trust, followed by the client trust. Who's our client? Isaac. Isaac trust. The reason for this, it's money collected. The heading of the step, it's always the reason. The money that was collected was 5,000. Like somebody said, 5,000. 5,000. Then we are going to do double entry here. We are going to have 2 ledgers, obviously. We are going to have correspondent trust ledger. This one you can just cram, guys, because it's always the same thing over and over again. And I'm going to share the memo. Isaac, trust ledger. So for correspondent, it's on the debit side. You're going to say money collected. 5,000 on the debit side. For Isaac, it's credit side. Money collected on the credit side. That is step number 2. That is how you do step number 2. You always start with the correspondent, followed by the plaintiff trust. Or instead of Isaac, you can just say the plaintiff trust. And that is step
Mike?
number 2. Yes.
Please fix the amount on the trust journal.
On the
trust journal, the
Oh, yeah.
5,000.
Yes, it's always supposed to be on the Isaac trust. Thank you. Thank you for that. And that is step number 2. This type of correspondent is the easiest one because you can just cram. I think the examiner has been reading my memos because he noticed that I've seen his tricks. Now he has been doing it on purpose to not do the things that he used to do before. This is for board exams. Okay, step number 3. Step number 3 is going to be what we call your fees and disbursements. You're also going to use the trust here, trust journal. Now, in order for you to get the amount for your fees and disbursements, you have to calculate here. Here, there's no way that you can just get it straightforward. You need to calculate. When you calculate, you're going to say total minus EFT. How much is our total in this question?
1,725.
575.
5,575. And how much is our EFT?
2850.
Yes, so we need to minus the 2850 from the 5,575. And how much do we get?
2725.
2725.
2725 is our fees and disbursements. So we calculate total minus EFT. That is how we get the value for number 2. Now for step number 3. For step number 3, instead of starting with the correspondent, we start with the plaintiff, Isaac Trust, followed by correspondent.
Your screen is not moving.
Trust. What was it? You said
I
what?
was saying your screen is not moving. Now it's moving.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Okay, so how much was that amount? How much was the fees and disbursements?
2725.
2725. Thank you. 2725. Total minus EFT. And then we are going to have our 2 ledgers here, number 1 and number 2. The first one, we're just going to call it Isaac. Isaac Trust Ledger. The number 2 one, we're going to call it the correspondent trust ledger. Okay, so we are going to do double entry. For Isaac, it's on the debit side, fees and disburse. I'm just gonna write fees and disbursement 2725. On the correspondent, it's on the credit side. Just gonna write fees and disburse 2725. There we go. That is how you do step number 3. Like that. This, guys, like I just said, it's just cramming, going and writing and passing. If this ever comes tomorrow, you should smile because it's the same thing. You can just look at the previous question paper and the memo. Just follow the steps if it's instructing, because it's always just straightforward. Okay, let's continue to step number 4. For step number 4, you also need to calculate. It's total minus money collected. It's the total minus money collected.
575.
575 is our answer for the allowance. Our allowance is 575. Now here we use what we call a fee journal because allowance it's a fee. Details.
Mike,
Yes. Yes.
no, I was
What's up?
asking if you're still here.
I'm here.
I was checking if you're still here. I can't. Oh, it's a network problem.
I'm still here. Are you guys struggling to hear me?
No.
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 Okay, I think it's the problem that side. Okay. Now for the allowance, you're always going to start with the correspondent business followed by fee, VAT. Reason for this is allowance. Now, one thing you need to know about the allowance, it's always VAT inclusive. So after saying that it's always VAT inclusive, what does that mean? Is it the correspondent business, the fee, or the VAT? The 575.
Fee.
Incorrect.
Fee plus VAT.
Correspondence business.
It's correspondent
Allowance.
business.
Correspondent
It's
business.
fees plus VAT.
Yes, it's fee plus VAT. When I say it's VAT inclusive, we mean fee plus VAT together. Now we need to separate them using
did not
that
drink
formula
water
that I
today.
showed you to calculate VAT. Amount multiplied by 15 divided by 115.
Seven, 75.
75 is our VAT and our fee is how much?
500.
500. That is correct. We need 3 ledgers. 1, 2, 3. We need our correspondent business ledger, fee ledger, and VAT output ledger. Then we do double entry for this one, fee plus VAT 575, fee 500, VAT 75. Just like that, we are done with step number 4. That is how step number 4 it's supposed to be done. Now, on step number 5, where you pay yourself, you are going to pay yourself the allowance, obviously. You're going to pay the amount that we found for step number 4, the allowance, total minus money collected. So that is the money you pay yourself. Can somebody just do the last step for me of paying yourself? How do you pay yourself?
Transfer journal.
No, TCB.
TCB? Yes,
Credit
TCB.
side. Credit side.
Credit side. Pay yourself. 575. And then where else do we write it?
Correspondence trust ledger. BCB.
BCB. On the debit side. $575. And what do you trigger after that step?
Transfer journal.
Transfer journal.
Details, TR, CR. Start with the correspondent trust, correspondent business, value, transfer. put that 575 here, 575, sorry, 575, 575. Do double entry for that. This, correspondent, trust, ledger, correspondent, business, ledger. And then value transfer on the trust here, value transfer 575, correspondent business, value transfer 575. Just like that, you're done with paying yourself. Okay, the last step, which is the closing off step, it's when you need to refund the client, because somebody asked, what about refunding the client? When you need to refund the client, does it say you must refund the client?
Yes.
Yes, it does say you must fully account to your client. So in order for you to give your client what they are entitled to, you need to look at the amount that you received minus the money that you paid yourself as allowance. So how much did you receive? I'm just asking this on purpose because I didn't say. How much did you receive from your instructed correspondent?
5,000.
Nope, that is from Abel. That was the money that was received by the instructed correspondent. How much did you receive from your instructed correspondent?
2,850.
The 2,850 is the money that is received. If you go back to the question and read it at the beginning, you will see you receive the following statement of account and EFT from your correspondent. Do you see? And EFT from your correspondent. That EFT of 2,850 is the money that you received from the correspondent, and you paid yourself 575. So 2,850 minus 575 is how much?
2275.
2275. Correct. When you refund your client, you're just gonna say refund from the trust on the credit side, refund Isaac 2275, and then you go and debit Isaac's trust ledger, not the correspondent, but Isaac. Refund Isaac 2275. Just like that. Do you guys know how to account with a statement of account? The question, guys, do you know how to account with the statement of account?
Yes.
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, so guys, the reason why I'm teaching you, I was giving you this a little lesson before you go to your exams, is for you to join us for 2025 exams, guys. For 2025 exams, whether it's paper 1, whether it's paper 2, whether it's paper 3, paper 4, we will help you pass it if you come and join Simplified Academy. We really know what we are doing, and we explain well. We don't use complicated language. That's why we excel. That's why we think we can get you to where you want to go, because of our simple language, because of our simple techniques, because of our classes. We have so many classes. You know, you just pay the little amount that you pay and you attend so many classes. So many. So I'm just going to show you my poster there on the screen. For those who haven't joined us for anything for 2025, please feel free to text that number below 0639589151. You will enter into a group If you are already in that group, it's fine. But if you haven't entered, just text us and join the waiting room for 2025 board exams so that you can pass. Because these exams are simple, guys. Truth be told, exams are simple. You can pass them. Most of the people that are going to be repeating, because like we've been conducting classes, we even conducted classes for August. Many people failed, some people failed. I mean, the reason why people fail is because they just don't have time. Even though the classes are recorded, you will find that a person doesn't even have the time to watch the recordings. But with us, it's good because you can write the whole of next year with us. So if you pay for March, we will teach you in March, you will go right. If you fail a paper, you're going to return in August, we're going to teach you, and you're going to go right again for free. So 2 exam sittings, that's how many times we are willing to teach you. So for the whole of next year, if you join us in March, we are going to be with us. Officially, we're going to start our pre-classes in December so that people can study through the holidays. But officially, our classes will commence in January 2025. So guys, spread the word. We need more people. I think we had about 300 students for August. We need 600 this time around. But my main goal is to teach at least 1/3 of the exam, because usually it's about 3,000 or 4,000 people that write the exam. So I need 1,000 in the future. So in order for this to be possible, you come and join Simplified Academy, pass your exams, and then invite your friends. Even now, you can invite your friends. Those are our prices. And have a good night. I'm going to share the memos on the groups. Don't worry, I'll share them on the groups. Just text that number. If you're not on the group, it will automatically give you a link to enter the group, and I'm gonna send those things there.
Sir,
One question.
Yes.
Is it possible if you could kindly share the recording of tonight's lesson? Excellent lesson.
Okay, I'll decide on that. If I get a chance, I'm gonna upload it because I'm about to get out of the house now. But I will see if I can upload
Can you
it.
please be kind to do so, sir,
please.
so that we can share it with many others and that they see how excellent you are and that they join, and then we are 600 by January.
Don't
Please,
worry,
yeah,
I'm
we
gonna
are-
try. Yes, I'll
please.
try to upload it now before I leave. If it's fast enough, yes, I'm gonna upload it now immediately when I'm done here.
Thank you, Mike.
I'm gonna share
One
it on the
question.
groups, guys. Please text that number. Text this number here because I'm going to share them on my groups. Text this number to get the link to the group. Yes, ask your question.
Yes, for paper 1 and paper 3, do you have like study material or is it just revision sessions?
No, no. For every paper, we have study materials. We have recordings. For every session, for every paper, we do have the study materials and the teaching. It's
Okay,
not.
so
This was just a recruitment class. You see, because I was like doing a memorandum. These are not principles.
okay. So if let's say you pay 750 for paper 1, you get access to the recording, the class, and
Yes.
everything just for this. Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
and
cool.
also we are introducing contact classes in Pretoria Central if you are in Gauteng. So you can either attend online or in person or both.
Perfect.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Mike.
so much, Mike. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.